The more I follow this Brian Kohberger Idaho 4 case, just the more mystery I find. Stuff is hidden and sealed, and I don't know.
But if something is hidden, how do you find it? Are there really 3 more bumps in the road? And how do you find something that's hidden? I'm Lainey Law.
And I'm attorney Andrew Myers.
Andrew, you have promised us hidden documents today. That is a big promise. How are you going to follow this up?
Yeah, most people say, oh, we have new docs. There's new docs. Come watch us. There's new docs. Well, how do you find the docs if the docs are all hidden? And that's what we're talking about today, is the fact that, how did this whole thing become an emergency 4 months later? That's one of the 3 bumps in the road we have in the case today. But the other one is, they've hidden so much stuff that they're getting so good at hiding stuff. I don't think they know, what they're really hiding. And why am I going around in circles discussing it? Well, it's because the docket of the case is public, even though everything, or 90% of it's been sealed. But if you look at the docket in the case, and it's not just me, I've heard other people say, well, okay, there were 12 discovery requests by attorney Ann Taylor. Then there were 13 discovery requests by Ann Taylor. Then there were 15 discovery requests by Ann Taylor.
But wait a minute. 13 to 15.
Yeah. So if you just look at the docket, it's like, where is number 14? So we're going to ask you, our viewers, to join us in our late Easter egg hunt. It's a document hunt to see if we can't find discovery request 14. So here we go. This is the court docket in the Brian Kohberger case. It's quite lengthy. And as you can see up towards the top there, we have the March 12th of 2024. We have the defendant's 12th supplemental request for discovery. Okay. March 13th, order to file defendant's Exhibit K attached to the defendant's 12th supplemental request for discovery, under seal, of course. Then we come down to 3/18, defendant's 13th supplemental request for discovery. All right, so now we're up to 13. I was sitting on the couch one day trying to enjoy some stupid TV show I was watching, and we go up here, follow me down to 3/28, defendant's 15th supplemental request for discovery. So I'm saying to myself, wait a minute. In between the defendant's 13th supplemental request for discovery and then the 15th supplemental request for discovery, do you see a 14 in there?
I'm seeing documents, but not anything containing a 14, no.
So, I said to myself, and I actually asked someone else that I talk to all the time, do you see the 14th? No, I don't see the 14th. There has to be. Are they that what's the word I'm looking for? Surreptitious about this stuff? Or does Ann Taylor's office not know how to count? Or what happened here? So there's 2 ways to find there is a 14, even though you can't see it. There is do you remember those little tests they gave you? And well, maybe it's just me. Remember those little tests they give you in school, all those colored dots? What do you see in the colored dots? You didn't get those?
Oh, like to see if you're colorblind, those kind of tests where it has like a number and a bunch of colored dots.
That's putting it nicely. I think the tests were to see if you're crazy.
I did have to take a test to see if I needed accommodations, and I found out that I was actually gifted, for those of you who might have some insight on that.
Well, I was actually given it, but anyhow,
test aside.
So here we go back. We have to go back. That movie Back to the Future? So that's what we're doing. It's a very long docket, but we're going to go all the way back. And there's 2 ways of doing it, and we'll show you the other way in just a minute. If you're at home and you know the answer to this quiz, yes, we're going to show the other way to do it. But here we go.
If you know the answer, comment it down below and see if you are right.
So again, what are we looking for? We're looking for number 14, right? Okay. See the little thingy there that says case summary? Okay, so we go in there. So now this is the real docket. If in the old days, you go into the court and you go up to the counter and you'd ask, can I please see the docket? And this would be the docket sheet. It doesn't have any documents attached to it, but it's the document sheet. It's a case summary. So here we go. All the things that starts on December 29th of 2022 with the new case. And so now we're going to go back down to the bottom, all the way down to the bottom. We'd be here all day if we went through it all because it's a fairly extensive case. So here we go. Look at this motion for change of venue that's scheduled on May 14th. Bingo, there it is. Under March 27th of 2024, motion to file Exhibit M attached to the defendant's 14th supplemental request for discovery under seal. So we now have solved the mystery as to where 14 is. So there it is. And remember that if you're still with me, remember I said that, yes, we would show you the other way to find it. So
I have a quick question.
Sure.
It's a file attached to exhibit, whatever.
Yeah.
Does that mean that something might have been granted?
I think that it just was a motion to seal it. And the court, in this case, the court always automatically, just by the snap of the fingers, seals stuff. So now we're going to go back to the bottom.
It's interesting to me that we can't find the 14th, but their 15th was fine.
Well, here it is. Here it is under 327 motion. See, it's not in here. It's not on the main docket that's available to the public, but here it is. Motion to file Exhibit M as in Mary attached to the defendant's 14th supplemental request for discovery under seal. And as usual, it's just a face sheet, and we don't know what the actual documents or things are that they are requesting. So there, we've now solved mystery number 1. No Easter egg hunt. No need to go any further on that one. So now we return to our 3 bumps in the road, and we've solved that problem. But it just seems to me that they've gotten so what's the word I'm looking for? Used to just hiding everything, that they've gone overboard and even hiding it and making you really dig for it, you know?
Well, I'm curious if they're hiding the 14th. I wonder if they had a very big ask for that. I imagine that there's something in that they wanted to hide. Could that be possible?
It is very possible.
They found the piece of evidence that shouldn't be public.
Well, none of it's public.
Oh. The defense doesn't even have it.
we know what's in the probable cause affidavit. We know about the alleged 2011 to 2013 Elantra. Oh, never mind. It was 2015. We know about that a couple of officers at Washington State University actually honed in on an Elantra outside Mr. Brian Kohberger's apartment. That was in late November, and that's another episode because that's another mystery. If we just talked about the mysteries in this case, we'd be here all day, and I don't think we have all day.
I don't know. I'm sure the commenters would love it. Let us know. I mean, you guys, the more documents we bring out, we could read every single document. And I feel like you guys would be equally as excited for it.
So we're going to change gears a little bit for bump in the road number 2. And that is emergency. What emergency? 4 months after November 13th, 2022, which was the date of the crime, the Idaho legislature declared an emergency. What?
Uh-oh.
For the university? What?
Woo-woo.
And the emergency was what? For $1 million? What? Where did the $1 million go? Well, all right, I'm getting ahead of myself, and it's time to now take a look at what the heck that's all about. By the magic of the internet, here is what I was just talking about a minute ago. This is Idaho House Bill number 222. Why do we care about an Idaho House Bill? Here's why. Check this out. Relating to the appropriation to the State Board of Education and the Board of Regents of the University of Idaho for fiscal year 2023, appropriating additional monies to the State Board of Education and the Board of Regents of the University of Idaho for fiscal year 2023, directing a report of the expenditure of funds and declaring an emergency. Wait a minute. This House bill was passed in Idaho in March of 2023. The crime at 1122 King Road occurred in November of 2023. And the deal is that the horrible crime occurred not on the campus, but off campus. It was off campus. It was in a home that certainly was in a university town, but was in a university town, and it was 4 months before this was passed. So, one might question what's going on with this. This particular bill and any other appropriation provided by law is hereby appropriated to the State Board of Education and the Board of Regents of the University of Idaho for the University of Idaho $1 million from the general fund.
That is a lot of money. That is, you could say 100 very well-paying jobs, to put it conceptually, for a year. That is like conceptually the idea of what they're even going to do with that money is crazy to me.
And the other thing is that Section 3, an emergency existing therefore, which emergency is hereby declared to exist, this act shall be in full force and effect on and after the passage and approval. Wait a minute. Legislators and, Congress, usually they announce an emergency when there's an actual emergency, a hurricane or a tornado or a flood or a huge bridge over the harbor outside of Baltimore falls. I mean, that's an emergency. Okay. But something that didn't happen on the campus and something that happened 4 months previously, that's an emergency. So I'm saying to myself, wait a minute. I got to take a look at something else here. Didn't the university president, Scott Green, write a book introducing the university president's crisis handbook? And the title of the university president's crisis handbook was How a Non-Traditional Leader Took His Alma Mater from Insolvency to Sustainable Success. And he's talking about, financially, how he brought the university to success. So it brings me back to the bill that was passed in Idaho, and the bill was for $1 million. And okay, the legislature said, you've got to account for that money. You've got to write a report. And we'll go back to that and take a look right here, Section 2. The university shall submit a report regarding the expenditures of funds appropriated in Section 1 of this act no later than August 1st of 2023. Okay, so, all right, so that blunts the idea of them, having to have an emergency and then say, well, it was an emergency and we needed $1 million. So they were told, the university was, to account. So where is the promised accounting, you ask? The university accounting would fit on the back of an envelope. So here it is. It's called security incident expenditures. Isn't that a nice vernacular for what happened when 4 university students were killed off campus and we got $1 million after I wrote a book about how I returned the university to security. Anyhow, so let's take a look at what the $1 million was spent on. Idaho State Police meals and lodging, $241,478.86.
Meals and lodging.
But wait a minute. Back up the bus a little bit. There were 3 law enforcement agencies working on this, at least 3, Moscow Police Department, FBI, and the state police. Now, wait a minute. Aren't the state police paid by the state?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm thinking is, do we really need to pay for their meals and lodging? Where were they staying before this? Are they staying on campus? Why are we feeding them? They couldn't feed themselves before. They're not getting paid by the state. That's a lot of money.
That's what I'm saying.
$250,000 almost. That's crazy.
I think in the book, if I remember the book, and we reviewed the book and we put portions of the book up on the screen, and they said, yeah, they were sledding with the students and they gave them meal tickets, but it's the state police. And in Massachusetts, there have been some real irregularities about the state police puffing up their expenses, and there have been some real problems. So this is an issue, I would say, in that the state police were paid, as you pointed out, $250,000.
I can't speak for all universities, but I know certain universities where even like the meal plans become a big issue because a lot of people feel like they're being significantly overcharged. So like having that context, knowing that separate universities, the meal plans are expensive beyond what people actually consume. I don't know. It feels bad.
So we've got the state police in Idaho getting paid out of two pockets, their own, salaries and income, and don't they put in for expenses like meals and lodging? So I have a big question about that. And in a minute, we're going to show you what a real budget looks like. But we're still on this one. Number two, third-party security. And I guess $267,000 was spent on, having people sit outside of that house that they then, acquired. It had been owned privately, and then the university acquired it. Then there is University of Idaho increase of security for $206,000. I guess that's arguable because the university students were concerned for a time, even though they all went home for Thanksgiving, they were concerned for a time. Then the next two items, I have a real problem with: consultants, comprehensive campus physical security review and plan for $126,000. Then the second line item for consultants, comprehensive security policy review and plan, $198,000. So we're talking about $325,000 in round numbers, about a third of the money on consultants.
Oh, and this is similar to how I was saying, where it's, 100 or less well-paying jobs. I don't know what security consulting is costing $100,000, more than $100,000. I'm not a security expert. The only security I know how to do is cybersecurity. But even if building a whole network that's secure is not going to cost that much, you can hire a cybersecurity expert and it's still less. And obviously, we're talking about physical security, but this is just consultants. This isn't people being hired to actually be patrolling and doing anything. And also, as Andrew mentioned before, this is an off-campus crime.
And guess what? I missed one. I had the first consultants line, the second consultants line, but going over it just now, I missed the third one: crisis media consultants. So you add those three numbers up, 126, 198, and 31, you're roughly at 350. Roughly, in rough numbers, $350,000 for consultants. So, excuse me, I wasn't born yesterday. When I was a reporter, I covered budgets at all kinds of levels, from your local dog catcher up to, the federal budget. And who are the consultants?
I got to start consulting at
this
price.
Well, you're coming. Just hold that thought for 1 minute, okay? While I continue my rant here. Who are the consultants? Where are they from? What are they doing? What are their qualifications? What is their education and experience? Where are their resumes? How do they break that down? How much of that was for meals and lodging and sledding with the students? How much of what did the consultants come on the university campus and give on-premises advice, or were they afar and giving virtual advice? And were they charging? So what's the breakdown of this $350,000? And then the vigil was $7,394. Okay. Or I don't know. Does a vigil cost $7,394?
I was thinking that it's a very comparably low price compared to everything. But like you said, the vigil costing that much money, maybe I'm misspeaking, but if you have a loved one who unfortunately passes away, to my understanding, that's the high cost of getting their casket, getting all the services and stuff like that. That's like a very high end thing. That's why a lot of people choose cremation, because it's usually under $1,000. $10,000.
I don't think that's what a vigil is. I don't think that's
the vigil. Well, I'm saying
no.
the vigil is the ceremony that they had, right? Yeah,
but that's not the funerals in the in these cases. The cremations, that's for the families. The vigil is
like a public
the students thing. They did have, I do recall, they all got together in the university stadium. I believe it was a basketball stadium, I don't know, but I do recall that. And not taking away from any of that. Yes, this was a shock. Yes, the students, knew all of these kids. They were very popular young people. Ethan, Xana, Maddie, and Kaylee, they were all very popular. And I'm not taking away from that. I'm not taking away from that at all. It was a horrible tragedy. But, $7,394, what, to turn the lights on in the basketball court when they're already there, to buy candles, to So where's the, my only point is this. I've looked at a lot of budgets over my lifetime, my adult professional lifetime. That's not an itemized budget. So Lainey, back to what you just said, when were you given the opportunity to put your resume in for the next line? Security technology. Isn't that your thing?
Yeah, I mean, with cybersecurity, it's like funny because thinking about it, I mean, I'm supposed to be qualified right now. I've taken the appropriate courses and stuff, but even something like that, you hire a cybersecurity expert if they're fresh out of school. I mean, they're not an expert at that point, but hiring someone for cybersecurity for a whole year, they're usually making, maybe around $80,000. You have someone who's been in there a couple of years, they're making $100,000 plus at that point, depending on the scale of the company and their seniority. But so that's what I'm saying. It's like a whole year of someone's income and you're doing security. I'm assuming that this isn't, I mean, it probably does review, like contain some level of cybersecurity, but I'm not a security expert, but I imagine that in large part, the activity of doing that consulting is taking a look at all the buildings on campus, taking a look at the doors and the windows. But a lot of that can be done seeing a map. You're gonna obviously walking around the campus is a little bit different, but also how much time are you spending walking around campus after you've been doing all the pre-planning on a map? I am not on an, I don't do, if I were to ever do cybersecurity stuff, I'd be employed. I wouldn't be doing contract work. And I imagine that they're doing contracts with these people, but that's a lot of funding.
That's a lot of funding. And it's not, again, just like the above items where I had some questions. Where's the itemization? Okay, you've had a horrible thing happen off campus. So on campus, you've got to do security technology. I just think it's a reasonable question for anyone to ask, itemize the expenses. Maybe it's totally legit, but not on a back of the envelope type of summary like this. And then the next one, student lodging and meals. Wait a minute. $8,199.58. Aren't the students there already?
They're paying for it already.
Aren't they?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. And it's like that, because a lot of the time students will pay like a couple $1,000s in their meal plan, like $2,000 meal plan. So it's just like, what is the student lodging and meals? It's like it's like one student, seemingly less than one student.
Again, no itemization. Are they eating in the cafeteria or mess hall, whatever they call it there? Are they eating McDonald's or are they eating Delmonico steaks? I mean, where's the itemization? And that's a fair question for taxpayers in Idaho to ask, and there's no answer. Counseling and crisis support, $38.50. That's the lowest number on the page. And
that's so sad.
I'll give them that counseling and crisis support was certain needed at that time. I would question this from having worked at a university, not the University of Idaho. Don't they already have a huge staff of psychiatric people and crisis counseling? Don't they already have a huge staff of people like that?
I go to a very small school, and I know there's at least 5 different counselors. And if you're going to be putting money towards counseling and crisis support, what is that $4,000 doing other than contacting a few students? Wouldn't you be hiring multiple people? I would say if you're going to spend $100,000 on something, counseling and crisis support for the students, if the concern is that the students for their emotional well-being, $100,000 could go in there, hire 2 new counselors. I don't know how much school counselors get paid, but like you said, it's just like all of this stuff needs to be itemized. There's no specifics on anything. It's very vague. You're paying a consultant all that money. What is the consultant doing?
Yeah, don't paint me as the bad guy. I'm not saying that counseling and crisis support wasn't needed. I'm just saying itemize this and tell us what it's for. And that is the lowest number on the back of the envelope budget here. So, okay. We'll give them that one. But then the last thing is King Road House for $998.97. So I'm saying to myself, wait a minute. I know that it was privately owned. I know that it was tucked into an LLC and that the university bought it. But go back all the way up to the top and then the second and third items, third-party security. I thought, I don't know, it wasn't itemized, so I don't know. But I thought some of that went for the security at their King Road House. So why are they now putting an item in here for $97,998.97, just short of $100,000 for the King Road House? Was that the purchase price? Did the taxpayers of Idaho have to pay for that when it's a crime scene? It was demolished. What? So no itemization. Is that what paid for the? We have the video that we've run a couple of times of the bulldozers and the backhoes and all that kind of the dump trucks. Is that what that's for? I mean, I don't know. And it's a fair question. Don't jump all over me if you don't itemize your own budget. Don't jump all over me, all right? Because I've looked at budgets, like I say, all the way from the local dog catcher up to the federal budget. This ain't a budget. Now, what they're saying in the orange line, total. Oh, look, we were good boys. We spent over the million. We're not even asking for the other $217,152.22 back. That's what we took out of our own budget.
So generous.
So you know what? So in fairness, I know it's out there that someone else has sent out a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act request to document all that. And I would have called them and asked them for their permission to use the request. But you know what it was? What's a nice way of saying BS? Will YouTube let me say that?
You can say a little BS. We got some BS.
So it was a stonewall. Stonewall, that's the word I'm looking for. It was a stonewall. It was a total stonewall. The Freedom of Information Act request was put out. Please tell us and justify to us what this back of the envelope summary is, and justify all these numbers, kind of like we just did. And it was a stonewall. And they actually gave the name of the consultants, not knowing who they are. I can't comment about that, but they really refused to answer any of the questions that we had. So
with the crisis, I feel like the only valid consultant price on here, because we talked about this, it was an off-campus event that happened. And I think it makes a little bit of sense, in a situation to somewhat increase the campus security. The media crisis consultant was around $30,000. That one makes sense to me because you have this huge nationwide case. So that's I guess what's putting this into perspective for me, is because you have this nationwide case, and out of all the consultants that you're paying, the media one was the least expensive. You would think that repairing the University of Idaho's reputation would have been one of the more costly things, and it's just bizarre to me.
So like I said before, I've looked at budgets before. I've looked at budgets at all different levels of, the government and private entities. And so there are just no answers. There's no itemization. But to show us and our viewers, what an itemized budget looks like, we hired a very good consultant who we sent out into the field and posed this question: what does an itemized budget look like? And here he is.
And they charged.
I actually live in a relatively small New England town, and the budget process is always something that needs to be done correctly. The taxpayers wisely want to know how their money is spent, and so once a year there's a budgeting process, and the people that are responsible for taxpayer money know how to put together a budget and how to account for every line item. So that's how it is done when elected officials or other officials responsible for taxpayer money need to account to people as to how their taxpayer money is spent. So I figured, let's go over to the town hall and take a look at that budget and how it is accounted for to the taxpayers line by line. Come on, let's go. And so here it is. This is what a budget looks like in a small town in New England. It's a fairly lengthy document, but look how they itemize everything. That's a budget. That's how you present itemizations of all the spending that is done. And as you can see, there are a lot of line items. And this way, the taxpayers and people to whom you are accountable see where the money is going. Well, all right. I think we'll tell that particular correspondent to keep his day job. But in any event, I mean, again, that's what a budget looks like. And it's a small town in New England, and it's like that. It's not on the back of an envelope. It's that big. So, again, someone did send out a Freedom of Information Act request as well. They should, and it came back all stonewall. There were really no answers. So, it's sad. It's really sad, but that's where we end today's 3 bumps in the road. And it's kind of telling that this university president wrote a book, and what was it called? University President's Crisis Handbook: How a Non-Traditional Leader essentially, brought the thing back into solvency. And is this how you do it? I'm not going to say begging, borrowing, and stealing, but I mean, to take $1 million from a state budget. I know that in the two states I'm familiar with, with all the senators and representatives, that wouldn't fly for half a second. That just that wouldn't fly. There'd be fur flying anyhow. But, so I don't know. I wonder how our viewers would think of all of this stuff.
The whole thing is wild. I mean, the fact that so much money is going into this. I mean, I guess if you're gonna figure out how to financially have a college succeed, I guess asking for $1 million will help financially. Completely bizarre.
Yeah, what's $1 million between friends? Could you borrow me $1 million?
I got you.
Sure.
Well, we have to pay that last consultant that just showed us the budget. We have to pay them $100,000. So I can only give you $900,000.
Plus that reporter who went down to the town hall, I think he wants $1 million for that 1 minute of work, and he wants $1 million. So
yeah, I'm actually to be here on this podcast. Everybody watching, if we all pitch in, you guys can afford my hourly salary of $1,030,000.
Just don't bother to itemize it.
I'll charge you guys. Don't worry about the itemization.
We don't need to see the itemization. Just but even a small town, even a small little New England town has a budget that's that thick, and it's all itemized. How much they paid for their telephone bill, how much they paid for paper clips, how much they paid for pretty much everything. So. I mean, that is how you account. And, I know when I worked at a university, they did account that way. And you really weren't, you were on a pretty short leash when it came to I remember I was called on the carpet one time because of my expense report. I hadn't put in an expense report for some time. And so when I put it in, it raised eyebrows because it was all valid and it was all legit, and I itemized it all, but it did raise eyebrows, and I was called on the carpet, actually. I had to actually go to an administration building and climb up the stairs and sit there and listen to a lecture, which I deserved. I fully deserved it. But the point is that they were very careful with their money because they're frugal Yankees. I guess they're not so frugal in Idaho. So, do we have any listener, viewer comments?
I do. So I have a couple pulled aside right now. So we have Ian Kinzel, and I actually saw Andrew replied to this one, and I loved this. It's a little bit of a longer comment than we normally read on show, but I thought it was interesting. So Ian Kinzel, as an instructor in a university, I'm finding that it's not really necessary to prohibit AI on essay assignments. AI is so bad at writing essays that grading a student based on AI's output is usually punishment enough. There are a few ways to work around the limitations of AI for an essay. However, from what I've seen, it takes so much research, brainstorming, outline beforehand, and so much editing afterwards that AI is basically doing the equivalent of converting shorthand writing into longhand. If people are more aware of sophisticated AI, that would actually be helpful for me to be aware of. And I guess, Ian, what I will say to you as a professor in my own experience of using AI in college, I am a computer science student, so I do think that the people, my peers, are a little bit more familiar with it. But I definitely agree that if you ask AI to write you an essay, typically the essay is going to be garbage. That being said,
have you ever cheated and had AI write your papers?
Well, I was gonna say,
are you gonna take the fifth?
I have used AI to write my papers, and I actually used AI recently because I need to get a separate internship. I will still be with About the Law, but I also used it for a cover letter. So for people watching who are not students and not going to be using this on your schoolwork, generally to get AI to do what you want, for an example on a paper, you would give it very specific instructions. So
I'm calling 911. I'm calling 911 to report that you used AI on a paper.
Oh my gosh. Well, one of my a little distraction. One of my most frustrating experiences in a sociology class, we were allowed to use AI to write our papers. So
really?
The teacher,
wow.
Because it was AI. It was a class about technology and society, and I was a little haunted by this because the first paper that we had to write for that class, I spent so long writing by hand, put my little heart and soul into it, and got a C. I'm an A student for English class my whole life. I love writing. Writing has never been an issue. The next paper that I wrote for that class, we had permission to use AI, and we could use ChatGPT, and we can include like screenshots and stuff like that. But if we had AI write our essay, we had to cite it. And I forgot to cite the images, and I forgot to cite that I had AI help me with my essay. And
Now
I got
I
like
calling 911.
I got like a high B. I forgot. I like felt so bad about citing it, but I didn't want to resubmit, and I got a higher grade. And yeah, so I will say that in my own experience, usually I'm not going to take what AI says, and my teachers at my school are very lenient with this, and we have conversations about this. But usually you say from AI, from the perspective of a student that's studying, in this example, sociology, write me something that conveys these feelings or what these thoughts, and it'll give you some garbage. But in that garbage, out of a paragraph, maybe 4 sentences are good. You erase half of it and then you rewrite it in your own words. So it's good for a foundation. If I'm writing like a professional paper and I don't know how to start, I'll have AI write something, rewrite it, and then have AI check it. So some students can use it effectively, but if you just ask it to do something, it's usually garbage.
All right, engineering experts, let me ask you a question. So like, oh boy, I'm gonna get in trouble for this. So but hypothetically, pretend like I have a meeting I have to go to tonight, but I don't want to go. Could I like send AI instead?
So not yet, but we're getting close to it because there's AI assistants now.
Okay.
Maybe we'll get
a little robot in to go. Okay.
You gotta train an AI to copy your voice and then have the AI assistant call in, no camera, and then it can pretend to be you. Okay. So next comment.
Let me read this one.
So this is from Jean. You can read it, yeah.
Are you pulling my leg? Ann Taylor stated in court that she still can't piece together how law enforcement got to her client as the perpetrator, and you guys think TikTok has some evidence to prove BK guilty? Well, those are two different things. I mean, those are two different things. I mean, Ann Taylor has also been, here's a comment I've been dying to make. Ann Taylor has also been quoted as saying that there's no connection between her client and Brian Kohberger. Remember that attorneys are advocates in our system of justice in America. Whether you like it or not, that's our system. We are advocates, and we are hired to advocate for our people. So when she said there's no connection, what is a connection? What is a connection? And we kind of touched on this before. If somebody likes you on Facebook, does that really mean there's a connection? Or somebody likes you on TikTok, if somebody, clicks your picture, and I had given some examples. I forget what the examples even were, but I remember one of them was the cookie lady in town. There's a lady in town that has a cupcake shop, and they're very good. Everybody go there and buy her cupcakes because they're really good. And she's on our local Facebook page, and I friended her and she friended me back. Does that mean there's a connection, really? I mean, come on. Is that so? Even if Brian Kohberger saw Kaylee and Maddie's was it, I forget whether it was,
if he liked or commented on their post,
was it a Pinterest, was it a TikTok, was it I forget what, but we do have information, and I don't care what the PCA says or doesn't have. I don't care what the newspapers have said. We do have information that we've seen here on this channel that in fact BK did like and click on Maddie and Kaylee's profiles. But does that really mean there's a connection? Come on. All right. I've beaten that one to a death.
And I do want to add point C or point 3 to what you said. Point C.
Yeah.
Is that a lot of what we were talking about in that video isn't necessarily if TikTok has information. It doesn't necessarily relate to Brian Kohberger. A lot of it was what we were saying is maybe their activity had some, like maybe they had an image of who did it. We weren't even saying that. Yeah. So I will say this is Jean with no this isn't towards you, but it's just funny because you wrote TikTok with C's instead of K's. And I was thinking, and this is more towards Ian, where I was like, when I read Ian's comment, I was like, usually comments will have at least one typo, and Ian's comment looked pretty well typed out. So I was just thinking, I made that connection. I'm like, oh, that's cute. But yeah, so this isn't when we talk about TikTok having, some kind of seed, some kind of inkling. It's not necessarily Brian Kohberger either. So maybe he did like their post. Maybe he did go to their profiles. And we're not saying one way or the other if that leads to a connection, but we're talking more about what else does that have that we might find out.
Right. Do you want to get the next one?
Sure. So Rachel, thank you. I gotta say, I just love you guys. Wish you had an office in Chicago, which I thought was really sweet.
Thanks, Rachel. I have a friend who's an attorney in Chicago if you really need an attorney out there, but no, we're just where we are, and we're happy where we are.
Yeah, and obviously, if you have any legal problems in Massachusetts or New Hampshire, feel free to reach out to Andrew. But like Andrew said, if you ever need an attorney and you're really desperate and you're having a hard time, definitely try to check yourself. But also don't feel bad emailing Andrew and asking for him to find you help. Okay. Maybe you shouldn't advertise that.
I don't want to read that. I don't read this one, but let's get a more substantive one.
I'll just say the nourished living. I just changed my TikTok settings. I thought that was really funny because I was talking about how TikTok shares your phone number and recommends your profiles to stuff. So I thought that was cute that somebody was listening to our conversation and went to go check their settings.
Oh, here's a good one. From Music Echoes. You would think that management of evidence would be taught when they went to college in law. How did these people get hired, especially the judge? What would happen if I applied for a job and I redacted my job history or redact most of my tax return? Yeah, I don't think you're not going to get away with that with the IRS. That's the only thing I can say for sure. In law school, you learn the law. You learn the procedure, you learn constitutional law, you learn these lofty, legal concepts, which are very important. I'm not putting that down, but in law school, you don't really learn management.
Mm-hmm.
You really don't learn, administration of justice. At least when I went to law school. So, these are things that you learn out in the field. It's like any profession, or trade, you learn so much in your schooling, and then you get out into the field and you learn the real stuff.
It reminds me of a professor who complimented how I titled my file, and I was confused as why she said that. And it was because it was my first initial, last name, and then what the subject was, which I didn't think anything. And when she was like, oh, I liked how you did that. And I'm like, oh, I don't know what I did. But it kind of makes me think you go to school and it's just like nobody's teaching you file organization. It's computer science, so it's a little helpful, but that's not for me, they don't even teach it. So for attorneys, I imagine it's non-existent for the most part. Organize your file cabinet. So Randall Reed, how would AI decide what was really important and pertinent to your case? And we would just say, no, we don't need that. Every case is different. So I'm guessing every facet of how it would be programmed for so many different things and thoughts. It's kind of frightening. Yeah. In a situation like this, I don't think AI is going to be used, but I think theoretically where we have all these, 50 plus terabytes of information, I think that the most useful function of it, if we're watching a security camera that's been going for 24 hours, give us timestamps of every time there's movement, because half the time it's not going to be anything. So AI is never going to be able to, it can kind of separate some stuff, but you're still always going to need to double check it.
Right.
So Jenny girl, this case is not a slam dunk. IMO, AI or no AI. We definitely, as you see in the comments, everybody's always disagreeing. So definitely not a slam dunk either way.
I don't want to read that one.
No worries.
Get another one. I want to read that one.
Do you want me to? I'll take care. Do you want me to take care of this one?
Yeah, go on to the next one. Okay, let's see. This is a great conversation. Oh, this is from Karen Weaver. Karen, hello. This is a great conversation. I have seen AI creep into my work software. Of course, I think job security, but I will retire in October. Again, really enjoyed both of your minds working out the ins and outs. Lainey, with your computer knowledge, and Andrew, with legal mind and experience. Hope Ann gets some help with going through the evidence. There you go. Thank you for those nice words.
Thank you for the nice words. Ann is definitely going to need that help. Tony, I'm all for witnessing the unfolding of the attempt of programmed AI to give scenarios and clues as to what may have happened in the Idaho 4 massacre. Now, where can I see the results of these attempts? I mean, like I mentioned before, I don't think AI is going to say, as it is right now, say the likelihood. But if you're ever curious, you can't really ask ChatGPT the free version about the Idaho 4 case, but if you have the paid version, I would definitely be interested in seeing someone talk about it back and forth, because I think the paid version has access to the internet, so it could probably pull a lot of documents and tell you. I mean, it's probably going to go pull social media, so it'll probably give you a lot of garbage, honestly.
All right, there was one comment. I don't know if we have it here. There was one comment, though, I want to comment on. There's a comment I want to comment on, and here's my comment about the comment. One person actually had a really good point that they made when they gave us their comments, and they said, no. I love when people say, yeah, no. AI technology is not there yet to do what my original idea was. And my original idea was take these 51 terabytes and feed them, and out pops some kind of at least indexing of all of this material. So it's not there yet. Okay, I understand that. But one of the commenters said, okay, what you can do is, first of all, everything has to be uploaded into your AI program. All right, fine. That would take some time. And then it would take time, but the AI program would be able to, digest it all and take it all in. Now, that doesn't do what I wanted to do, but this one commenter said that you could then search stuff out, like, I don't know, Hyundai Elantra. Elantra is between 2011 and 2013. Emma Bailey. I don't know. What was the name of the restaurant, the vegan restaurant they went to? I forget the name.
I don't even remember. I barely remember the grub truck.
So I don't know how that would work. I really don't. Just because I feed in a picture of your car driving away, can I type in Lainey Law? Was she on Main Street in any town, New Hampshire? I mean, so I don't know. I don't. But I guess there are people working on it, but the technology is not there. So stop calling my office, Mr. Myers. Would you like to buy our program? Because the answer is click no.
Love that. So this is the last comment that I have pulled out, and there are a lot of great comments. I tried to pull some of the shorter ones. Did you want to read this one, or should I?
Sure. Isn't it interesting how kids these days use all these apps that give out their private info with no regard for their own safety, like the people surrounding this crime using Venmo? I don't use Venmo because it shows your transactions publicly. Why would you want that to be public? So weird. Is that true when you use Venmo?
You can set it to private, but I always send, when I send money, I set it to private, but like mine, it always like I laugh about what people put, but I agree with that. I think you can hide your profile so it's not publicly visible. But I got a friend request on Venmo the other day, and I thought about accepting it. It was from a person I've never heard of, had no mutual connections with, and I was like, maybe they'll just send me random money. That's not going to happen. Don't accept random money from strangers. But in that situation, aside from like, oh, why is this person adding me? And this goes for Facebook. This goes for TikTok. I mean, TikTok, you make friends, but like, especially something like Facebook that has a lot of personal information, maybe Instagram too. It's, you got to be careful about who's accepting your stuff. A lot of people like don't realize that you can post like a picture outside your house. And this is a little derailing. There's a game called GeoGuesser. The people who play this game are the scariest people in the universe.
What's the name of the game?
GeoGuesser. So
GeoGuesser?
Like geography guesser.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it puts you in a random location. It blurs out any signs and stuff like that. And the game is to guess where you are exactly. So it's like you have to figure out what state, what city, and all of this stuff.
Wow.
So you have these crazy people who all they do is all day long play this game, and they can see a picture of any street and be like, oh, that's that highway, and know exactly where it is all over the world. So that's scary.
I knew nothing about. You're the gamer here. I know nothing about this. So I've got a final thought, and that is that I went out and I did that little report on. I live in a little New Hampshire town, and I was careful not to show too much. I'm on a. Where am I? Do you think people will be able to play your game? Do you think they'll figure out, other than people that live in the town and other than people who know me, you're disqualified from this game? Do you think people outside of this area will be able to tell where I am?
I think that if you have one of these crazy geoguesser peoples, that
Really?
they can look at a picture of anyone's house. If you post a picture outside your house, they'll just see the construction of the house and they'll be like, oh, this is this place.
Yeah, but I'm walking on a trail next to some water, and I was really careful. You can't see very many buildings at all, and it's not my house. I'm nowhere near my house. I'm just in this little town, and I'm
The
walking on.
chances are non-zero, I would say.
Good, so they won't know where I am.
No, I'm not saying the chances are zero. I'm saying it's non-zero. I think there's someone out there. But I don't like, when you're a public place, it's not that serious. But I think they're going to look at this. This video was posted in April and the foliage looks like this. That water is facing that direction. The sun is in that direction.
Okay, all right, but now the metadata that would have been created when that video was taken, that wouldn't carry through to my downloading it and then editing it and putting it on StreamYard. That wouldn't carry through, would it?
It wouldn't do it through that. So when you post a video on YouTube, that metadata isn't shared.
Okay.
But that's something that I think about often because a lot of modern day messaging services do remove that metadata. But it's kind of hard to dig into it if you don't have computer savvy. So sometimes I get curious of how much what we share people can figure out, because that was Kate Middleton, I think her name is, like one of the princesses in England. I'm sorry, I'm detached from that stuff. But that was one of the things that they were trying to get when they suspected that she was posting AI photos. So,
so
it's kind of hard to get.
So here we will give an as yet undetermined prize of undetermined zero value to anybody that guesses correctly where I was when that was taken.
Someone's going to see this, have no idea, and then start doing GeoGuesser and studying, and then they'll come back a year from now and let us know.
All right. And again, people that know me, personal friends and relatives, and people that live in or are familiar with the town, you're disqualified. It's got to be somebody that doesn't know us and doesn't. Okay, enough said about that. So
that was the last comment.
Okay.
So I do want to say before we finish up, I wanted to say thank you, members. So we only have 2 members. We don't have any member perks right now, but we haven't really said thank you to our members in a while. So these are the people who choose to pay a monthly fee to our channel. So I do want to say thank you to CJ. We've had CJ on here a couple times, and Laureen, a beautiful commenter. We've read her comments sometimes.
Right.
Thank you guys for your support on our channel, and everybody who subscribes. We really appreciate you, and comments, of course.
Yeah, CJ, we followed you all the way down to Louisville, I think it was last week. So I followed you driving around, you and Rosalie. So it was interesting. So thank you. Mike, I don't know what yours is, but my closing thought is please be kind and polite and respectful to people, no matter if you want to throttle them in the grocery store. I hate when people get in my way, but be kind, be polite, be respectful, whether you're in the grocery store or you're in the big box store or the gas station. You don't know what people are going through. And we invite all of your comments. We're getting more of them. And as you can see, we like to read our comments, but be polite, be respectful. We can disagree with you. I've actually picked up some comments from people that have disagreed with us and, run with them and done some research and brought them into the podcast. The only thing that we do, and I promise you, 2 things that we will delete is if you slander anyone and say, "Oh, this reminds me of when the chief of police did this to me." No, we can't have that. And the other thing is, you don't personalize it. Don't say, I think this person is a that, or this person is a this, or how can you be an attorney if you think this? So on those thoughts, do you have anything more positive to say on a closing note?
I will close up a little bit of what you said when you said this person is this person is that. Forensic Frenzy is not FBI if you're watching this far. No, thank you guys so much for all your likes, comments, and subscriptions. We definitely appreciate this. I mean, I always enjoy the videos, and I'm glad to see that you guys are enjoying it as well. And I mean, any request, as always, just let us know in the comments down below. Thank you guys.
Okay, have a good one. You have been watching About the Law, a production of the law offices of Andrew D. Myers in Methuen in the Merrimack Valley of Massachusetts and in Derry, just outside of Manchester, New Hampshire. Remember to click the like and subscribe buttons down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to share it with your friends and others. If you'd like to talk to me about an injury case, a car accident, a slip and fall, a serious bodily injury case, or some other case, please feel free to contact me. I'd love to talk to you. You can contact us through my website at attorney-myers.com. We have a contact us block, or you can call on one of the telephone numbers we've given there, or you can email me at andrew@attorney-myers.com. The foregoing is offered for informational purposes only. It is not intended as and does not constitute legal advice. Laws vary widely from state to state. You should rely only on the advice given to you during a personal consultation by a local attorney thoroughly familiar with state laws and the area of practice in which your concern lies. This podcast must be and hereby is labeled advertisement in some jurisdictions. So is Mercury in retrograde?
Is that why they can't find the horses through the tunnels?
Oh my gosh, oh my God, and that's that.
And that's that.
And
Stay
no,
safe.
she's not a member of the FBI. Where do people come up with this stuff?
I don't know. If she was a member of the FBI, that's definitely what a cover would say. Are we FBI?
Dun, dun, dun. We go back down into the tunnels.
The tunnels, that's where the FBI meets.
Where do they come up with these tunnel things? How did that even get started?
Oh, they just ride their horses into the tunnels. Everybody knows that there's tunnels.
But, oh my God. Bye. End recording.